On Christmas morning, I asked, "Is there a present for me?" Mom said, "We don't give gifts to ungrateful people." My brother snickered. "Santa skipped you deliberately." I just nodded and walked out. The next day, he knocked, crying, "I need $80,000 to save my business." I smiled. "Right to Santa. You know that feeling? The one where your whole life, you've been playing a silent role, a background character, just waiting for your turn in the spotlight?" Well, mine came not with a bang, but with a whispered ungrateful on Christmas morning, swiftly followed by my brother showing up the next day, demanding $80,000. Can you even imagine? My name's Evan. I'm 32. I'm the older kid, the quiet one, the reliable one. In my family, that basically means I'm the guy you ignore until you suddenly need a ride, a forgotten login, or a signature on something important. My job? IT at a small hospital. Fixing printers, resetting passwords. I even bring cupcakes to office birthdays because, honestly, someone has to. I live alone in a little one-bedroom place that always smells faintly of coffee, even after I've washed all the mugs. I've got this small savings account, which, weirdly, is one of my proudest possessions. I run 3 times a week in these cheap, squeaky shoes. If you ask my mom, she'd tell you, "Evan? He's steady." Ask my brother, Luke. He's 29. He'd just shrug and say, "Evan's fine." But if you asked me, I'd tell you I've spent most of my life as the extra, the guy off camera holding the boom mic. It wasn't always like that, though. When we were kids, I was loud. I played the trumpet, tried out for everything. But somewhere in middle school, I figured out what worked. I learned to make myself small, to not worry my mom, to keep my dad from sighing. So Luke, my golden boy brother, could just shine. Luke, he was sunshine personified. He had that smile that could get him an extra scoop of ice cream, even miss curfew by 2 hours and still get a gentle, "Be careful, sweetie." Me? I got a curfew. Nobody ever checked if I was home. Our house? Holidays were pure performance art. Perfect stockings, matching pajamas if mom could stretch the budget. "We're making memories," she'd beam, which, translated, really meant, "We absolutely can't afford this, but we're going to pretend we can." She loved that pretending. It made her eyes bright. It made my dad quiet, and she always mistook his silence for contentment. But I knew better. He was doing mental math, counting points on the mortgage, cents per gallon, the extra hours he'd have to pick up. I watched him crunch numbers in his head like some people hum a tune. I became really good at the background stuff. I wrapped gifts with awkward corners. I mastered the art of fixing burnt gravy. I labeled the boxes that piled up in the garage like a forgotten attic. I was good at the things that kept the show going. Luke, on the other hand, loved to make his grand entrance at the last minute, crack the joke that made everyone roar with laughter. He's not cruel, you see. He's charming. And in our family, most days, that's exactly the same thing. I'm telling you all of this so the next part, the part that finally broke me, makes sense. It was Christmas morning. Our living room looked like a magazine spread. We'd done the whole dance the night before. Carols, hot cocoa, the one present at midnight rule. I'd slept on the couch because my old room? It's mom's craft room now, which is just a closet overflowing with glitter. I woke up to mom humming, the TV playing a fake fireplace loop. We gathered. We smiled. We passed packages around, names spelled half right on the tags. Luke nudged me, like we were still kids. "Ready?" he whispered. I looked at the pile. My stomach dropped. None of the tags said Evan. I cleared my throat, trying to keep my voice steady. "Is there a gift for me?" Mom didn't even look up from the ribbon she was untangling. "We don't buy things for ungrateful people," she said so casually, like she was quoting a calendar. Luke snorted a laugh. "Santa skipped you on purpose." My face flushed hot. My hands felt empty, like they suddenly didn't know what to do. I just nodded, couldn't even manage a word. I left the room, grabbed my coat, and stepped outside. The air stung my nose, cold and sharp. I stood there, just breathing, until the sting in my chest wasn't quite so raw. The very next day, a knock echoed at my apartment door. It was Luke. His eyes were bloodshot, shoulders slumped. He didn't even say hello. He just blurted out, "I need $80,000 to save my business." And you know what? I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because something finally, irrevocably, clicked in my head. "Write to Santa," I heard myself say. See, my family? They had a script. I knew it so well I could recite it in my sleep. Act 1. Luke tries something big. Dad says, "Be practical." Mom says, "Dream big, baby." I say nothing because I'll be asked to fix whatever inevitably breaks, and you can't fix a thing you just insulted. Act 2. It goes badly. Money runs out. A bill arrives in red letters. Mom says, "We'll figure it out." Dad sighs, "We've already figured it out 10 times. I say, "I can help." That's my only line. Act 3, I help. I move money I've saved $10 at a time. I skip a dental cleaning. I work a Saturday. I bring over groceries. I click pay now on someone else's login. The music swells. We all pretend nothing happened. Credits roll. Next season starts. I wish I were exaggerating. I could give you the numbers. When Luke was 21, he bought a used BMW. "Image matters in real estate," he declared, even though the car came with a laughable warranty. I co-signed just for a year. He missed 3 payments. I paid $1,800 to keep that car from being repossessed in front of Mom's house. When he was 24, he opened a juice bar. Reclaimed wood counters, chalkboard menus. In a neighborhood where winter lasts 9 months. I put in $5,000. "Because we're family," he'd said. He texted me 6 times in one day with smoothie names. The bar closed after 11 months. Those chalkboard menus? They're in Mom's garage under a quilt rack. When he was 27, he went digital. He needed a website. I built it for him. After work, for free. I paid the domain for 3 years because he forgot to set up auto-renew. He never updated the site. It still says grand opening soon. Through all of it, I felt like a coat rack for everyone else's dreams. It wasn't one huge thing. It was 100 little things, all with my name on the receipt. "You're so good with money, honey," Mom would say. In our house, that meant, "You're good at handing it over." Even Christmases had a ledger. The year Luke got a gaming console, I got a sweater on clearance, security tag still attached. I cut it off with wire cutters while Mom said, "Oh, did they leave that on? Silly store." The year Luke got a temporary loan of my laptop for college, I drove to community college at night and wrote my essays on a campus library computer because temporary lasted 2 years. My dad wasn't a villain. He was just so tired. He'd pick up double shifts, come home, shoulders sagging. He'd see Luke's grin, Mom's bright eyes, and just shrug. "Let them have this," he'd whisper to me in the garage, handing me a trash bag of wrapping paper. His tone said, "I can't fight 2 wars." Sometimes he'd press a folded 20 into my hand like we were spies. "For gas," he'd whisper. By last year, I could recognize the early tremors. Mom would start with, "Your brother is under a lot of pressure." Dad would start rereading bills. Luke would get louder, tell bigger stories, always saying, "We're almost there." Last summer, Luke started a consulting company. The pitch changed weekly. "We do marketing," he told me in June. "We do D2C," he declared in July. "We run pop-ups," he announced in August, wearing a baseball cap with a brand new logo. He kept saying we, but I never met anyone else. He rented an office, a tiny room above a nail salon, thin walls, a window that stuck. He'd post photos of whiteboards covered in arrows and buzzwords. He messaged me, "Look at the traction," and sent a screenshot of an email draft. I watched the credit card pile grow. How did I know? My number was the backup on his Stripe account, just for verification. He asked for it once in a rush. "I'll change it later," he said. Later never came. I'd get text codes at 2:11 a.m., 3:06 a.m., for security confirmations. I basically stopped sleeping on Fridays. In November, Mom called me 3 times in one day. "Your brother is doing something big," she gushed, sounding like a sports announcer with the volume stuck high. "It's his shot. He just needs time." Time or money? I asked. Don't be negative, she snapped. Then softer. We might need to move some things around. Mom, I'm not a bank. Your family, she said, as if that answered everything. Early December, Luke texted. Coffee. He picked a place with wobbly chairs and coffee that tasted like burnt almonds. He sat down, too cheerful. I'm close, he beamed. To what? I asked. He grinned. To making it. How much is it? It's not about money, he started. Then 2 breaths later. It's just, the runway is tight. How tight? He looked at the ceiling like the number lived up there. Like, 80. 80 what? 1,000. I asked. Yeah, 1,000, he said fast. It's bridge funding. Short term. I've got meetings. I stirred my coffee slowly. Luke, I don't have $80,000. He waved his hand dismissively. You do. In equity in your 401k, and, adult stuff. You're good at adult stuff. I pictured the line items in my budget. Rent, utilities, ramen, the $30 I tuck into savings twice a month. I pictured the old tires on my car. I pictured the night I spent on the phone with the bank last year, disputing a charge he'd made on a card my name was on by accident. No, I said. He blinked at me like I'd spoken Swahili. What? No, I repeated. Don't be dramatic, he said. Mom says a lot of things. I shot back. We didn't speak for 2 weeks after that. Then Christmas came. You know the part that happened next. The missing name tags, the ungrateful people line, his laugh, the cold air outside, my hands feeling so empty. That night, alone in my apartment, I lay on the couch and stared at the ceiling, counting the tiny dots in the paint. 173. I couldn't stop thinking about how Mom had said it. So smooth, like she'd practiced. I couldn't stop hearing Luke's laugh. The next morning, a text. You home? Then the knock. He stood there, circles under his eyes, a damp chill clinging to his hoodie. I need $80,000 to save my business, he said. He didn't even say hi. He just started with the number, like we were picking a song from a jukebox. Write to Santa, I said. He flinched, then forced a laugh. Okay, funny. But seriously, is it life or death for your LLC? I asked. For my future, he said. I stepped back, just a little, so he couldn't see my living room, with its thrift store tree and the 2 gifts I'd bought myself. Socks and a cast iron skillet. Luke, I said, and something new rose in me. Not anger, not even sadness, just a hard, flat calm. No. He pushed past me without asking, hands out as if he might catch his own fall. He paced. He touched the back of my couch like it contained all the answers. I have vendors calling, he said. I have a lease, payroll. People depend on me. You told me you didn't have employees, I said. I have contractors, he snapped. Semantics. He turned to me with that face he used on teachers and waiters. Ev, you're my brother. You know I'm good for it. I thought of the times he'd said that exact sentence, holding something of mine. Keys, cards, promises. I thought of the 7 temporary loans that had somehow turned permanent. I thought of the 12 times he'd called me after 11 p.m. with urgent in the first line. I thought of the 36 auto-renew charges I'd canceled that were never mine. I sat down. I'm not doing this, I said, my voice level. I won't liquidate my retirement. I won't take out a loan. I won't co-sign anything. I won't be your safety net. He stared. Why are you being cruel? I'm not being cruel, I said. I'm being clear. He snorted. So, that's it? After everything I've done for this family, what have you done? I asked, not to hurt him, but to finally set the record straight. His face went red. Mom needs me. Dad needs me. I keep the energy up. I pay the bills when they can't, I said quietly. He waved a hand. Money isn't everything. Then why are you here? I asked. He sat down, finally, on the edge of my coffee table, elbows on his knees. I miscalculated, he admitted. Couple of contracts got delayed. Investors ghosted because of the holidays. It's optics. If I can just cover January, I'm good. $80,000 is January? He hesitated. Plus some late fees. I let the silence hang. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder. Dentist at 2 p.m. I'd already rescheduled twice to ride along to Luke's big meetings, where I sat in a lobby holding his backpack while he practiced his smile in the reflection of the window. Ev, he said, softer now. I'm asking you because I trust you. I used to think that was a compliment, I said. Now I think it means I'm easy. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Mom said you'd cave, he muttered. There it was. Cave. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water I didn't need, and came back. My hands were steady. Luke, I said, this isn't about revenge. This is about closure. He rolled his eyes. Okay, Instagram therapist. I'm serious, I said. I'm closing the account. All of it. The loans, the favors, the late-night rides, the logins. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at how I taught you to treat me. You taught me? His laugh was sharp, disbelieving. You chose this. I did, I said. I said yes so many times. You thought my yes belonged to you. He stood up, pointing at the door. I could find someone else to help, but he didn't leave. You should, I said. Find a bank. Find a mentor. Find a therapist. Find a job. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes were wet now, whether from anger or fear, I couldn't tell. You're really going to watch me fail? He asked, his voice small. I've watched you fail 100 times, I said. I just stopped catching you. He shook his head. Mom will be furious. She already is, I said. I can't keep buying my way into being her son. He took a step towards me, then back. So nothing, 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 I confirmed. I won't give you money. I won't lie for you. I won't co-sign. I won't be your emergency contact for a business. He laughed once, an ugly sound. You'll regret this. I might, I said. But I'll regret staying more. He looked around my small apartment like it had personally betrayed him. I can't believe you, he said. I can't, I echoed. He walked to the door, hand on the knob. He paused. Last chance, he said like a movie villain. Not for me, I said. He left. The hallway filled with his footsteps. Then the door clicked shut. I locked it with both locks. Then I sat on the floor and let the quiet settle over me like a heavy blanket I had finally chosen. The first thing that happened was my phone. It became this small, buzzing animal. Mom called 8 times before noon. I let it ring. She left 3 voicemails. They started sweet. Honey, call me back. I'm worried. Then, Evan, this is serious. Your brother is drowning. And finally, sharp. I did not raise you to be cruel. Dad texted once. Call your mother. I could practically hear the sigh between the words. Luke sent a wall of messages. I'm outside at 10:03 a.m. Answer at 10:05. You don't understand the stakes at 10:12. This is on you at 10:18. At 11:01, a photo of an overdue notice, cropped to hide the company name. At 11:30, fine, forget it. I put the phone face down and went to the dentist like a normal person. I sat in the waiting room with old magazines and a fake plant covered in dust. A kid across from me tried to wink and did it with both eyes. The hygienist asked, So, how was your holiday? And I laughed, out loud, in a way that made her step back and check the sharp things. When I got home, my voicemail inbox was full. I listened to exactly one. Mom's voice was tight. You think you're better than us? She demanded. Then softer, almost a plea. We needed you. She hung up without saying bye. I made rice and eggs and ate standing up because the couch still felt like it held his shape. I washed the pan immediately. I threw away the egg carton even though one shell could have fit. I wiped down the counter twice. Day 2. Dad called. Not Mom. She's upset, he said. I know, I replied. You could have handled it differently, he ventured. How? I asked quietly. Not dramatic? I told him no in my own apartment. No audience. He sighed. He's under pressure. So am I said. I've been under pressure since I was 15. He didn't argue. He just said, your mother is crying. Like that was a chess move that cornered my king. I'm not responsible for her tears anymore, I said. I was surprised at how light the sentence felt leaving my mouth. On day 3, Luke posted something vague on Instagram. A black square with white text. Sometimes the people closest to you do you the dirtiest. He added a broken heart emoji. Mom commented 3 red hearts. A cousin I hadn't seen in 5 years sent me a DM. Y'all good? I didn't answer. I blocked Luke for 24 hours. Not forever. Just long enough to hear my own thoughts. The silence felt like stepping out of a loud bar into crisp winter air. The practical fallout started, as it always does with money. My bank sent a fraud alert. Did you authorize a $1,200 charge to Marketing Hub Pro? I shook my head before I even finished reading. The card was an old one Luke had borrowed for a deposit 2 years ago. I thought I'd closed that loop. Apparently not. I spent 47 minutes on hold, listening to a piano loop. I spoke to 3 people. No, that's not my charge. 4 times. Please remove the backup verification number. Twice. Yes, I'll wait. 5 times. I wrote down reference number 84419 on a sticky note and stuck it to my laptop. A small, boring adult battle. I won that one. I checked my 401k just to see. The number wasn't huge, but it was mine. I imagined the 80,000 Luke wanted, a siphon pulling through it. I closed the tab and locked my phone with a passcode I hadn't changed since 2019. I changed it. I changed the login on my email. I changed the PIN on my debit card. I clicked Remove Authorized Users and saw Luke's name there like a ghost. I clicked Remove. A tiny, dumb thrill went through me. One less hook in my skin. Day 4. Mom showed up at my apartment. She didn't text first. She never does. She knocked 5 times, fast. I opened because that's what I do. She swept in like a weather system. Coat off, scarf still on, eyes bright with purpose. You're coming with me, she announced. To where? I asked. To the bank, she said. We're going to fix this. No, I said calm. She blinked. Don't start, she said. I'm tired. I'm finished, I said. She went very still. Your brother is drowning. Luke learned to swim by having people pull him to the surface, I said. He never learned to float. Don't be poetic, she snapped. I'm not, I said. I'm done. She stared at me, then tried a different tactic. Her voice softened. Baby, we're family. I know, I said. And family is supposed to be safe, not a credit line. She looked around my apartment, just like Luke had. You live like a monk, she said, trying to insult me into compliance. I live like a person who pays for his own life, I said. She sat, rubbed her forehead. We raised you to be generous, she said. You raised me to be obedient, I said, before I could swallow it back. Her mouth opened, closed. Is that what you think of me? I don't think of you as anything, I said, and then corrected myself. I think of you as my mother. I love you, and I'm not doing this anymore. She tried her final card. Tears. If your father dies, she always jumps 10 steps ahead. How will we survive? You'll budget, I said. You'll downsize. You'll stop pretending Christmas needs a soundtrack and 6 credit cards. My voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. She stood so fast the chair scraped against the floor. Who are you? She asked. Me, I said. Finally. She left without hugging me. I locked the door. I made tea. I didn't drink it. I sat with the silence again. It felt like someone had turned off a generator in the next room. A noise I tuned out until it stopped. Over the next week, the numbers changed. Missed calls, 23. Voicemails saved 0. Texts from Luke, 17. Then 0 after I set the filter to unknown senders. Amounts I didn't pay, $80,000. $1,200. $399. $6,712. $19.99. Amounts I did pay: $62 for groceries, $14 for a thrift store lamp, $29 for bus fare because I decided to leave the car parked and walk. I started building a routine like building a shelf. Work, run, cook, sleep, repeat. At work, I stopped volunteering for every emergency. I can do Tuesday, I told my boss instead of, I can do whenever. He looked surprised, then nodded. Good, he said. Boundaries. At night, I read recipes. I made soup. I ate at the table with my phone in another room. I washed the pot and let it air dry without rushing it with a towel. I went to bed before midnight. My sleep tracked on my watch, clumsy technology, but it still felt like a gold star. Went from 5:12 to 7:06 to 7:34. I didn't unblock Luke. I didn't call Mom. I didn't send a long text explaining myself. I didn't write a speech. I did nothing. That was the action. Nothing. On day 9, Dad called again. I get it, he said, voice low. Do you? I asked. I was the first net, he said. Then I got tired. Then you were old enough. I'm tired, I said. I know, he said. I'm sorry. We sat in silence together, which was the closest we'd come to understanding in years. On day 11, a certified letter arrived. Luke's LLC had dissolved. The paper was bland and official. It didn't mention me. It didn't mention Santa. It just said, in government font, that something had ended. I placed the letter in a drawer and didn't quite close it. I looked at it. I waited for guilt to rise like a tide. Didn't. What rose instead was something like air. A month later, I stopped counting missed calls. Mom sends shorter texts now. How are you? Dad's appointment 3 p.m. We need to talk. I answer some and not others. When I do answer, I use full sentences. I don't add money to the end of them. Luke hasn't reached out directly. I hear about him the way you hear about the weather in a different state. A cousin posts a photo from a bar. He's in the corner, head down. A friend of a friend mentions he's consulting again. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. It's not my spreadsheet anymore. I still think about Christmas morning. That line lands differently now. We don't buy things for ungrateful people. I'm not ungrateful. I'm grateful for the lesson. Grateful for the clarity it gave me. Like a light flipped on in a room I thought I knew. I kept one tradition. I bought myself a small gift in January, after rent cleared and the electric bill was paid. A decent pair of running shoes. They don't squeak. On my first run in them, I looped the park twice. The air hurt in that good way. Counted my breath. I didn't try to outpace the old noise. I just moved. When people talk about boundaries, they make it sound like a fence you build once and then admire. For me, it's more like a daily chore. I say no, and then I say no again when the ask comes back dressed in different clothes. I answer calls when I have the energy. I let them go when I don't. I delete the app that keeps me watching people live lives they're not living. I make dinner. I sleep. Sometimes I want to explain all of this to my family, in a way that makes them nod and say, oh, of course that won't happen. But they have their script. And I'm not in this season. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. I said it once to my brother in my living room. I say it to myself now, when the guilt tries to creep back in, wearing Mom's voice. Closure wasn't a slam. It was a click. A lock turning because that's what locks are for. I didn't save Luke's business. I didn't rescue a holiday. I didn't buy my mother the feeling she wanted. I saved myself. I rescued my own January. I bought my own shoes. I won't co-sign my way into love again. I won't fund someone's hope to earn my place at the table. I won't be the background hum that keeps their show running while mine stays dark. I love my family, but I am not their safety net. I'm building my own life now, the boring way. One bill paid on time. One run. One dinner. One honest no. It's not dramatic. It's not tragic. It's just steady. And if you're wondering if Santa ever wrote back, he did in a way. I wrote the letter. I sealed it. I put it in a drawer. I didn't ask for anything. I walked outside. The air was cold. The day was mine. So I'm curious. If you were in my shoes after everything, what would you have done? Would you have given him the money? Let me know in the comments below.